Hello everybody, my name is Craig Bennett, and today I'm going to get into a review of the Google Wi-Fi system and an overview on how to set it up so you know how easy it is or how hard it is. And as far as this goes, it is a Wi-Fi system. I'm going to get a little bit more into it on what makes it different from others, but I have both the 3-pat and 1-pat. I pay for this myself. This Google had really no involvement in here besides them answering your question, which I'm going to get into later part of this video. But the big thing to note here is I don't want you to waste your time if this product is not for you. So let me rule out a few people right here, right now, and note that if it rolls you out, then feel free to check out my other videos and note that, this type of channel it is. But if you're going only for one Wi-Fi point, so as far as this goes, I'll explain a little bit more on what is the magic behind this actual Wi-Fi router. But if you're only going for one Wi-Fi point and that's all you're looking for, this is not for you. Simply, there is too many options out there with Wi-Fi routers in this price range that is better for you if you're going to go for one access point only. Also, it's not for you if you're looking for a enterprise type level. This is meant for home use, and specifically if you got like a mom and pop shop, fine, you might be able to use this just fine. If you got a small doctor's office, a dental office, something of this nature, it will probably work for you fairly well. So if you can give it to allow your guests and stuff to do their thing or whatever it may be. But anything bigger than that, I would say go if you're going for low-end Wi-Fi routers or like home Wi-Fi routers, I would say go with something like the Netgear Nighthawk, which is the previous Wi-Fi router I had. It's the top end Wi-Fi router you can get. Netgear Nighthawk R7000 is what I had. The R8 or R9000 is the top. There's really no actual difference besides a few minor things between those two, and that's what I would advise most companies to get. However, if the magic of it is what you're looking for, then that's something that you got to keep in the back of your mind. So as far as that goes, let's get into what makes this Wi-Fi router different from others in the entire field. So what makes this Wi-Fi router different from others is it uses something called mesh technology. I'm not going to get into the technical behind it, but a thing to note is mesh network. It works differently from your normal network. And this is why I say if you're going to get one, it's just there's other things out there. You're not going to get any real advantage. And I'll really say if you're going to get two, if you're going to get two, fine. But 3 or more is where things are at. And what happens here is with a normal Wi-Fi range, as far as your normal Wi-Fi router, you might have a normal Wi-Fi router and a extender. The problem with a Wi-Fi router and extender is you have where one device, say for example, if you're going from this side of the house to another side of the house where the extender might be, what would end up happening is your device will end up having to drop from the given device and pick up on the other, so there's an actual stop. So if you're streaming something or doing whatever, then you have that problem. Then this is the problem that I had and why I got Google Wi-Fi is there's something called device load. Basically on the Wi-Fi end, not the physical plug-in end, but the Wi-Fi end, and same thing with the physical plug-in, but it's a little bit better as far as that, so it's not really as a problem. On the Wi-Fi end, what happens is it talks to one device at a time. This is very important because if it takes too long for, like say for example, if you've got 80 devices it needs to talk to And if it takes too long before it gets back to that first device, it will time out. You'll have some other problems. This is a major thing to understand. There's a few ways to fix this. First is by using a Wi-Fi router, and there's only one that I know that comes in mind, and it's the one that is even higher than what I originally had, which was I think it's the Netgear Nighthawk R9000 had this. It might be R8000, but it's something called MIMO, MIMO, whatever. But basically, it means multi-in, multi-outs. So it might say 2x2 or 4x4 or something like that. But basically, if it says like 2x2, that means it can talk to two devices at the same time, which cuts the time in half. So if it takes 1 second to talk to each device, obviously this is just simple math, 1 second to talk to each device, and it has 10 devices to go to, well, you can cut that in half to 5 seconds. Where the first device, it will take 5 seconds if it has 2x2, 3x3. It talks to three devices at the same time, and so on and so on. I think normal Wi-Fi routers, home Wi-Fi router, home-wise, it's the highest you can get is 2x2. I might be wrong about that. You might be able to get a little bit higher, but you're still talking about in the $200-300 range, so it's very expensive. Google Wi-Fi and all mesh networks should use a multi-in, multi-outs 2x2. So that's one thing to note. But the thing to also note is you still will face somewhat of a device load problem. So what happens here is the access points communicate to each other. And this is what solved my issue. And I can guarantee you that this solved my issue. It actually sped up my network. I'm going to also talk about how it can slow down your network if you don't know what you're doing. Basically what happens here is, say I got a few IP cameras all over the place, and given an IP camera can see, say, all three of these. If one gets a little bit overfilled and the other ones are not seeing too many other devices connected to it, it will switch the IP camera to the other one that is least congestive that you can see, and it'll go back and forth. In the IP camera, you and everything else won't be able to tell the difference besides the actual mesh network. The mesh network will only know the difference because it's doing the work, and that's its job. That's one of its jobs, and it works amazingly. At least this one works amazingly as far as that. I've sat there, and I'm going to get a little bit more into it in this video, but I've sat there and I watched on my phone as, say, my computer, it can see all of the devices that my main desktop, it will be able to see all of the access points, and you can watch it switch from one access point to another as it's going from a very congestive to a least congestive type of thing, and it keep doing that, and I'll be streaming, playing games, doing whatever, and not missing a beat. That is the mesh technology. Whereas a normal extender, you'll have to go when it switch overs or does any of that stuff. It doesn't have that communication between the devices if you're using an extender. And then on top of that, your device will have to disconnect shortly and reconnect. It might be very quickly, so you might not notice any reconnect thing, but there is no communication between an extender and the main Wi-Fi device. It's just a fundamental of the technology. And as far as the thing being able to only talk to one device, or if it's a MIMO, if it's say 2x2, it only being able to talk to two devices or whatever it may be at a time. That's physics. That's just laws of physics. So as far as that goes, hopefully that answers some questions on what makes this different from others. Now, enterprise level people, some of them said they didn't know this when I was doing research, and some others brought this up, saying thought this was the case. Is this is very, very new for home use. Normally, this will be enterprise level. This is a very, very low end enterprise, if anything like that. But this is a very new thing for home use, and I think you're going to see it more and more. But this is a self-contained unit. It only has, and I'm going to get more into it, Ethernet ports and whatever. But it's a self-contained unit as any other home Wi-Fi unit. You don't need to have an external router. You don't need to have all that other stuff. It is a router and all that. So that's something that was actually brought up. Talk to enterprise level people, because of enterprise level people, you need to have the mesh access points in externally some router and some all this other junk in order for the thing to work. No, Google has put it in one unit. Netgear has their own, which is Orbs, but it's not as good as far as the test, which I'm not going to get into this particular video. Basically, those are well-known tests out there that the speeds on Google Wi-Fi is much greater and talk to each other much easier. So as far as the range and whatever, the following is the range. Now, one thing I wanted to note is concrete, metal, things like that can actually harm as far as the range itself goes. The range is actually a lot further than what it says here, and that's something important to note in itself. Thing to note is I have a access point that is right next to brick on the inside of the house, right next to brick. It has sheetrock, insulation, wood, and brick that has to go through. Outside, we're talking about almost an acre or so that can cover. And in fact, I'm even thinking about putting a camera all the way out there for streaming purposes for another channel, because it's that good. It's a fairly good as far as the range goes. Now, one thing I will tell you right now is when you're setting up, say for example, like these Wi-Fi access points, and these basically the range. This is not an accurate picture. Basically, to get something worthwhile, it needs to be halfway. So basically, where it says the range is 1500, it needs to be half that for your other access point or closer. So that's important to note, because say for example, if say this middle one, if that's the base, the home unit, the root, and it's talking directly to the base, the root. If it's getting this far out, then it's transmitting a weak signal, kind of like a stinner. That's something to keep in mind. Now, the cool thing is, though, is if, say, for example, this was out over here, then it will communicate through, obviously, the roots, then the first access point, and the last one. So that's important to note into itself. You got that ability where you can actually get around structures and stuff. So if a direct line of sight is not going to work, you can actually put so for example, like right here, if this one right here, if it's going to talk to the roots being right here, the main one that's connected to the internet, because some structure right there is completely blocking it. As long as this can see that, then it can still go on the internet. So that's pretty important to note, is you can get around structures and stuff. That's also another advantage versus just using a stinner. So that's important to note. For here, they call it the one that connects to the internet, the modem. a primary, but you'll hear on other places it being called a root, and other places a home base and stuff of this nature. But it's just important to note that the one of them has to be connected to the modem, and the others can be just out and about. So I'll get a little bit more into this in the setup, and I'll leave a link down below to these pages so you can take a look at them. So let's go into the actual setup real quick. You're going to need to have either Android or iOS, and just make sure that you can download the Google Wi-Fi app. In fact, before you even buy it, I'll recommend you being able to see if you can actually download the Google Wi-Fi app. Running it, you won't be able to run it until you actually have a device, or unless if you have a previous model type of device. But as far as that goes, as long as you can download it, you're good. You're golden. One thing I want to mention is there is no browser. So with a normal Wi-Fi router, home router, you can actually go into the browser version through your computer and set up that way or manage it that way. That is not the case at all. It's all through the mobile application. So as you're seeing the video, that's what you're seeing there. But before I forget, so as far as the price goes, it is about $300 for the full 3-pack, and a 127 or 128 for the 1-pack. And as far as the actual box itself, the device comes in. If you go for a 3-pack, then you obviously will get the 3 access points. You will get 3 chargers, which is below the actual access points, and within the box itself, it will be one of them will have an Ethernet cable. So note that you don't get 3 Ethernet cables; you just get one, because that's all it's needed. You just need to have one connected to the modem. And if you're going for just a single unit, then they'll all be there. Single access points, a single Ethernet cable, and a single charge. Same type of layout and all that stuff. Now, as far as things I want to mention is the packaging is actually pretty neat, and it is very clean and clear. But it's very much I'm just kind of blowing through as far as what you'll see on it, because it's the exact same stuff that is on the website itself. So as far as that goes, let's get into the actual setup itself. The device itself, it comes on the bottom of it with the USB Type-C charger, and just obviously plug that in to power it up. But what you need to do is plug that in to power it up, and then on the bottom there's going to be 2 Ethernet ports. One of them is going to be for the internet, and the other is for other devices. I highly recommend is if you're going to go and get this, and you do use Ethernet devices, get a switch. They're very cheap. You're talking about $10-20. They're very cheap, very easy to use, plug-in type of thing, and it works. But note that it only has one Ethernet port going out. So if you need more, you need to get a switch on top of this. But and also a thing to note is each one of these devices, since all of them have the same Ethernet ports, the Ethernet port that is going out, you can actually have a switch at several parts of your home or office or whatever it may be, and plug it into that, and that would work theoretically too. I never actually used it, but I honestly don't see why it wouldn't. It's all hardware and stuff is there, and the software should work just fine. Now, as far as the button on the back, you might notice a button on the back of the access points. If you, I wouldn't advise holding down it and whatever, playing around with it, but if you held down it for 10 seconds, then it formats. It basically puts it back to factory defaults. So that's just a quick way to reset it back to factory defaults if you need to. So if you're selling it or something else, that's fairly important to note. Now, as far as that goes, the actual device, it comes with an actual little card showing you how to work this. So jumping on in here, basically you need to start up the actual Google Wi-Fi application. And then when you first set up your first one, it will go through the following animation or something like that. Press get started on the bottom right, and then it will look for the actual first device. And then once it finds it, it will tell you right there, and all you need to do is scan or type the code. It's going to be on the bottom of the actual unit itself. Now, as far as that goes, you can use the QR on the bottom as you see there. Then it will go through a totally separate animation right there as you see there. This can take a little while depending on things, and it is checking if it's on the internet. This is something I didn't know, so make sure that it is connected to the internet. I spent a few seconds trying to figure out that's how to just skip that all entirely, but apparently your first one needs to be connected to the internet, and then what you do, you can actually say where it is, and go ahead and press the next button or find out whatever you want to call it. Now, as far as here, this is the SSID, so as far as this, I'm just going to put in test zone for the SSID, the name of the Wi-Fi, which everybody's going to see, and we got the Wi-Fi password itself. Now, as far as the admin stuff, this is your actual Google account, and I'll get a little bit more into that. So as far as that goes, once it's creating it, basically what would end up happening on this end, the Wi-Fi device will be blinking blue or go to solid blue, but it will basically be setting up itself. So from here, and this will take a few seconds, and you have to go through this animation each time that you set up a new one, which I'll show how to do. So from here, what you need to do is just basically finalizing everything, and it will ask you how many more points you got. For this, I just said none, and it will automatically put you on the test zone, on the thing that you made, which mine was test zone. From here, it just had it where it updated. Notes that this updates all of them. So for example, if you set up, say, 4 of them or whatever, it will update all 4. But in that case, it just updated at once. So each one that you add, it updates it. And then there you got full access to the application itself. Note it takes a few seconds for it to refresh and say, hey, you're online and everything. So that's an important thing to note, that just give it a little bit of time to say that you're online. And as you see right there, it says that we're online and everything is looking good. So as far as that goes, let's get into the actual setting up the multiple devices. So at this point, basically, if you already have it set up, go to set up Wi-Fi points at the hamburger menu. From there, what you need to do is simply go through this screen like before, get started, tell it which network you want to put it on. So if you want to create a new one, you can, or just put it on an old one. There you go. From here, just make sure that they're plugged in and good to go. Now, what I found is once you got the first one set up, being the root or whatever you want to call it, set up to the modem and everything like that, you can actually go ahead and set up all the others, plug in all the others on it and put them on a table or whatever it may be, and then set them up one after another. It's the easiest way to do it. As long as that first one's set up and put up where the modem is, you can set up all the others just fine. And right here where it shows I have 2 that's powered on and ready to be set up, on the bottom of it will say set up and then some weird code or whatever, and that will tell you which one that you're looking at. Scan that given one in, and what it does is just like before, it does the connecting to the Wi-Fi, setting up the Wi-Fi and all that. You need to wait for this part to get done. This will take a little while, just so you note. Now, as far as this portion, after it gets done finalizing your stuff, it will want you to test the stuff. So go ahead and test it. For some reason, it's asked me if I'm giving it Bluetooth permission, and just keep pressing yes if that comes up. But go ahead and do the test now. And I don't like this, that it's forcing you to test, even though you're going to be setting up multiple of them. But at this time, that's just how things is. So as far as that goes, if it finds that the area is slow and everything, or like it's here, poor connection, or whatever it may be, you can redo it. But what I would suggest is just hit that more options. I didn't know this at the time. Hit the more options, and then you'll have an option to skip. So there you go. You can skip and just move on. So as far as that goes, that's pretty much it. I mean, the entire thing is the same as before. So as far as that goes. Oh, and an important part I almost forgot is it will try to update all of them they just connected. So note that. All right. And as far as this goes, going into the actual application, to use the actual application, when you first crank it up, given that everything is set up and you have it the way it is, what would end up happening is each time it would take you to the center area, saying the network, the actual, if it's online, how many points you have. For this, I got 4 Wi-Fi points, and how many devices you have. Now, as far as that goes, let's start from the hamburger menu and then move on. You can actually have multiple accounts connected to it, so for whatever reason, but you can again set up the actual Wi-Fi points. You can actually, if you're on multiple networks, so say for example, if you got like a vacation house or a shop or something like that that you want to use multiple things, then you can actually monitor and take care of it from one given location. So going down, again, you can set up, you can do the Wi-Fi care or support or whatever it may be. So going left, basically this is a tool tip section. It's pretty straightforward. It's just telling you, did you know that you can adjust the lights and stuff of this nature, which I'll get a little bit more in, but at the top it tells you the condition of things. So it's like right here, it says everything looks good, 4 Wi-Fi points are online. So going from here, going into the middle, if we click on the internet, it will tell us the speeds, the all results in the past 6 days, and just the average speeds, the network history. Now, if we go back a little, go to the Wi-Fi points, it tells us the Wi-Fi points we have, the names that you want to put up for, or what it may be. So you can test it in order to get these things, the weak, fair, good, whatever. You can test it. The primary will never be tested because it's a primary. It's the first one. The secondary, third, and whatever, that's obviously going to be tested. So as far as this goes, basically you can test it and whatever, and obviously we can click the gear, and this will take us to another portion, which I will show you later in the settings area. I'm not going to click the test mesh yet, so I'm going to actually run through the entire thing and show you the animation through that on its own. So going down one more, this shows the current devices on the list. So this is fairly simple. We can actually show by MAC addresses or not. Now, as far as the given devices, it will, let me try to find something like this phone that I'm on right now. So right now, if we click on that, it shows the real time how much data is being used On the bottom right, we have the prioritization feature, which just basically means that above all else, prioritize this given device over all others. You can only prioritize one device over all others, and it could be at a maximum of 4 hours, between 1 to 4 hours. So you can cancel it early, by the way. But that's the big thing to note is you can prioritize a device. But for me, I didn't really see too much of a difference. But it might be something worthwhile if you're, got like a TV, smart TV, something like that, a streaming or something like that. So going into details, you have the name of the device, which you can actually change, by the way, with the pencil thing. Which actual access points it's connected to. So up here, it's saying that it's connected to the upstairs office, the IP address, the MAC address. Which type of connection is it? Is it a wired? Is it 2.4 or 5 gigahertz? And then the device type. So if I go to my computer, it will say Asus, and it will even tell you right there. But the neat thing with this is if we go to the thing on top, we can actually see the devices from the last day, from all day, and this shows any device that connected, the data they use, and all that other stuff. So say, for example, if you're going in your internet plan or whatever says, you use like 15 gigabytes in one day, you can actually look at which device did that. Now, one thing I want to note is I don't think that this is looking at the actual device connected to the internet. So, for example, if I have a home server which has the IP cameras, basically the IP cameras around the house are wirelessly connected to the home server. The home server communicates with the IP cameras, and basically it records security. This is all internal. Now, all of this does take bandwidth, so I don't know if it's including that, which I'm thinking it might, because pretty much all of the Wi-Fi routers do that. So if it's 15 gigabytes of that moving around and 15 gigabytes of something else, then you got to figure that one out. But it's something worthwhile seeing what uses up all your stuff. But as far as this goes, I can't tell you because how new it is, but I think as much as you can see is 60 days, and that's just something to note into itself. Now going back into the last area, if you do the network test, which I'm getting into its own little segment for that, it tests all those three things. It's worthwhile doing if you first set it up, then great. Afterwards, it doesn't matter. Then you can do prioritize devices. So right here, I can prioritize my voice over IP and set 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours. Again, I hadn't really seen too much of a thing on this. Maybe it's because how I got mine set up, or I'm lucky, or whatever. But I honestly have not seen any difference between whether my device was prioritized or not. I think it might be device load. I'm not 100% sure. So then you got show password, which is you can share your password, Wi-Fi password, with whomever. You got the network setting, and we can go here and reveal, share password, change that stuff. We can go to the access points so we can see, okay, we're up to date, and even the notes on the actual stuff. So for example, like if there's an actual thing added, like say for example on the first version of family pausing was added, we can see that, now we have this feature. I doubt we're going to see much. Based on other companies, I doubt we're going to see much. I never owned a Google Wi-Fi system before. They only had one before this. based on things, I don't think much is going to happen there. Let's just be honest with ourselves. Stability, security, stuff like that, fine. Past that, I don't see anything happening. Then we have where we can reset all the access points, reset the entire network, factory reset, and this is how you remove an entire network. We can click on a given thing, and we can have the software version, the model, the IP address, WAN IP address, which I'm not going to show. We can restart the device, remove the device, change the brightness level, rename it, and that's it. So that's something to note. And again, we can click the add Wi-Fi point to add Wi-Fi point, just like setting up thing. So as far as that goes, let's go down a bit more and go to the advanced settings, and we got the DNS, so automatic WAN, and that's set up, whatever. We have the DHCP, port forwarding, UPnP, and network mode. Most of that's not going to be useful to most people. We can add managers, and what this basically is you, as the person who set it up, will be the owner. I don't know if you can switch ownerships, but as far as that goes, basically what a manager does is they can go in and play with the system if need be. So, for example, if one parent will give it to another parent, stuff like that, or maybe a manager in a store, can have access to it to do whatever. Then we got AMP support, so diagnosis, so we can do the Wi-Fi care, the app version about privacy, which is pretty important, so we can actually say Google Wi-Fi cloud services, and I'll leave a link down below to that. So if I remember, if I don't, then I don't. But basically, this deals with named devices and stuff like that. I'll get a little bit more into it in a second or two. But then we got Wi-Fi point usage status. I wouldn't allow that. In the application itself, Google Wi-Fi app uses status. That I'm okay with as a developer. It helps people telling you, hey, this is crashed or whatever. But the biggest thing out of that is I'll say the cloud services, leave that checked. Everything else could be unchecked as far as I'm concerned. Then here you can do email notifications, so updates about your Google Wi-Fi, new features, tips, blah, 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 and then announcements and stuff. I'll say go ahead and allow it. I allowed it. I have not really been spammed, but also I haven't had for that long of a time, just a few days to a week or so. You might be noticing a thing missing, and that is IP pool schemes. I got into this earlier, but basically you cannot, at this time, set up your IP pool scheme. I've talked to what's their face, the Wi-Fi care. They said that a lot of people should request it, and they're looking into adding it. Something to note. Now, as far as this goes, we got Google Wi-Fi, the guest Wi-Fi. We can set up a guest network. I'm not going to do that. We got family stuff, so we can actually do the pausing. So I can actually just go ahead and say, oh, I want to pause my desktop. There's no end time. Oh, you're grounded from playing Xbox or whatever it may be. So we have that ability. Then we can go in here and add a end time. So it's like, oh, we're going to be eating. You need to pause it. Thing I don't like about this is it doesn't have a warning. That's a big thing I don't like about it. So that's a big thing I wish they had. So what I can do is, now that I pause this, unpause it, so I can actually do stuff on my desktop. But basically what happens is all of a sudden the person will see, oh, I lost connectivity. So if we go ahead and add group devices, go whatever, select right there, and I set the devices, whatever. Let's get my phone so I can actually use this. And then let's go ahead and press next. So what I can do is, these devices, I want to pause them. I can pause them all. So, like, for example, if your kid, I don't know, whatever, they act up, you can say, pause their devices. Now they're not on the internet. Keep in mind, obviously, other sections are on the internet. So real quick, let's add a another thing, and just show you what happens if you got multiple. So as you see here, you can got multiple. You can pause per device. You can pause the actual overall devices, put a time limit. And the one thing to note is, as you're adding devices, say for example, if you got like kid 1, kid 2, and you can pause it per kid. So like for overall, I can just pause it overall for a kid. And basically, again, what this does is the kid will, or whomever will get literally no warning whatsoever. Hey, this is about to be paused, or in 5 minutes it's going to be paused, or something like that, or you're running out of time, or whatever it may be. There is literally no warning. It just goes off. That's something I really don't like. Mostly because if the person is doing schoolwork or whatever it may be, it can really screw them. Now the cool thing is if we choose custom time as far as until morning, it's gonna be unpaused and whatever, and we can do things like that where, okay, you don't want a kid playing on their computer. Maybe you got a hard time with the kid going on their phone at nighttime and they just won't stop. So you can actually pause them, keep them from going on the internet until, I don't know, sometime in the morning. And that way, at least overnight, you can get some sleep. I can see some benefit in that. But again, if you're going to have parental controls like this, in my opinion, the thing itself should have ability to warn it. Say, hey, because like your ISP, internet service provider, it can do push notifications, push messages. Same thing with this. It should be it literally. I know for fact, because background and whatever, devices can have the ability to push notifications through websites and whatever. So the person tries to go one website to the next, and what would end up happening is they'll say, you have 5 more minutes to go through, or what it may be. And what would end up happening is the person knows, okay, to save everything and head to bed, instead of, let's just cut off right now. I can see a lot of parents abusing this and screwing with kids, and I can see bad stuff happening all around. I've already recommended that Google fix that. Now, as far as this goes, to remove it, just simply go and do the delete label, and it's that simple. And if you go ahead and do the delete label on all of them, or if you don't create any of them, because I don't really have any kids running around or anything like that yet, and I don't have any reason for that, but I see here it's more action, and it's saying, hey, you can do more things. So the last thing here is the home control. And if you right now type in on dot here, so that little thing up there, basically you'll be taken to a Google site. Basically, if you're on a Google Wi-Fi thing, you can be taken to a home control area. Here's the problem: is I don't know what devices work with on dot here. I know Philips Hue works with it, which is a lighting device, but I'm not paying $100 and like $50 for one light bulb, and then $50 for a bridge for it to talk to the Wi-Fi. I'm not paying that. That will come out of my pocket. I'm not big enough for something like that. So I don't know what other devices work with it. I'm playing a guessing game. But yeah. Anyways, as far as that goes, It's and a few things I can get into. It's like, again, with the IP range. So as far as the default IP range for the devices, the access points is going to give a 192.168. It's either 85 or 86 and dot whatever. You cannot change that at this time. And this is the message I got back when I was asking about it, saying at this time there is no way to set the IP range and change the subnet of the network with Google Wi-Fi. We have been requested by that from other users, and they are looking into adding that into the future. So at this time of the review, March 20th, 2017, at this time, it is not in the device. So that's a killer for you. Then I'm sorry. And I'm sorry for not putting it earlier, but, that's not in, and at this time, but it's being, based on email, it says is being added. Now, will it happen? I don't know. But based on YouTube stuff, I've been told things, and yeah. So as far as that goes, and that's where company trust comes in. By the way, Google, get crap right on YouTube. So as far as things goes, one other thing I asked them, a few other things I asked them, is currently not all devices work with Google Wi-Fi. Blah blah. They basically skipped over my overall question of, do you have a list of on here devices that work with Google Wi-Fi? And they sent me this, as you saw there. They plastered the Philips Hue lights, and so on. Philips Hue light, again, you can look it up yourself. It's a $50 light per light bulb and $50 per bridge. How all these smart lights work is basically you have a bridge. Is basically a thing that the light bulbs connect to. You connect the bridge to the router. So the problem is the bridge is like $50 or something around that. The light bulbs are $50 or something around that. And that's per light bulb. That's too much. And that's just to show you how this works. That's not going to happen. I don't know what other type of devices work with the on here. That's the problem. That's a major complaint. I've asked for it. I've asked in multiple places, and hadn't got nothing. That's something that's to be noted. But as far as I'm able to tell, it's mostly this, and maybe their Nest thermostats. I don't know. I'm figuring that because Google owns that too, owns Nest thermostats and fire alarms and whatnot. Maybe some other stuff, but I don't know. Now, as far as this goes, it's talking about the brightness level. Basically, one of the problems I found is it says for the colors, what colors mean, is a solid teal means everything's good. Well, what I'm finding, and if you look at promotional material and some of this stuff, is what is being shown is white. And I'm like, hey, it's not teal. Is the thing this broke or not? Because I'm seeing some promotional material from Google itself and other places showing white. So, like right here, it's white. That's not teal. That's white. And then I'm finding some stuff from other places, some random people taking pictures of theirs where it's teal. I don't know if that's a glitch. And then, like with this, I don't know if that's, just someone not writing something right or what. I sent them, keep in mind it was Sunday when I sent them this, but today, yesterday, whatever, I sent them a thing saying, hey, here's some promotional material showing it's white, and here's some pictures showing it's teal. Is this a glitch, or is this something going to be added, or what? I haven't heard anything back, but also keep in mind now it's like a day or something ago. That's something to keep in mind, but the brightness level stuff, that's also something important to note. Reason why the brightness level is important to note is if it's like, you can actually set the brightness level to even turn it off, as I mentioned, but As far as that goes, if it's on full bright, it can light up. It's like a night light, basically. The problem with it is actually offensive to the eye, being white. If it was like teal or blue or something like that, that's one thing. It's a problem with the actual lights they use. It's like a LED, and basically what happens is I don't think I can show it within here, but basically the LEDs is right here. It's a multicolored LED, and basically what happens is when you move really fast or look through your peripheral vision real quick, or it just catches your eye through your peripheral vision real quick, you see a whole assortment of colors because the LED gives a whole assortment of colors. And that's why it's offensive to my eye. But it could be like a nightlight where like over time you get used to it, or just turn it around and have it facing the wall. But if you like put it in like a kid's room or whatever, and it's like on a tall shelf or whatever where they don't see directly into it, it shouldn't bother them, and it'll probably double as a nightlight. So note that. Or if you like need an area where it gets really dark, and you put a nightlight so you can walk around at night without falling downstairs or whatever. Same thing there. It's pretty good as far as the nightlight goes. It does brighten up an area a lot. But also at the same time, if it's a very small room, then it might be overpowerful. That's where the brightness level might come into play. So note that. Now, as far as that goes, what else do I want to share? Oh, and before I forget, the IFTT, if then that, this is a very great service, a very, 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 very good service. So basically, what this does is, let me find something. Like say for example, I don't have an Amazon Alexa, but if you have Amazon Alexa, you can tell it if it's hooked up through here. You can tell it to trigger a priority device. Say, Alexa, trigger priority device to blah, and it will trigger that. Or email your phone whenever something happens. So, it does these type of things. So it's very useful in this aspect. It has this ability, and you can create others as long as it works with your. But basically, what happens here is this is part of the cloud privacy thing that I was talking about. What happens here is, say for example, if your phone, so when a device connects to on Hub or Google Wi-Fi, set the thermostat temperature, so it's obviously known at your home. Well, what would end up happening is you can look through a device list and you can say, "Oh, this is my phone." When that sees the home, then or Google Wi-Fi, then do the following. That's and keep in mind the On Hub is a previous version of Google Wi-Fi. I don't think it had a mesh. I think it was just strictly a wireless router type of thing. So anything with On Hub should theoretically work. I have not seen any problems, but keep in mind I don't have like almost any of these things to test it out on. So note that too. But it's like right here. It's like when a device disconnects from the thing, then do whatever with the lights. So if you're home, then or if you go away from home, then set the thermostat to whatever, so, because you're not home, or when you do get home, then do the following. That's a pretty cool thing that you can do with this. So that's something to notes. And I think you can add your own. You can do other things with this as long as your I don't know what they call this app or statement or whatever it is. As long as whatever you're making can see the Google Wi-Fi account and whatever else you're making, it should definitely work with no problem. So say for example, if you wanted to, you can say like your security cameras, to not record the inside security cameras when your phone is connected to your Wi-Fi, but when it's not, then obviously start allowing a recording because that means that you're not home. So as far as that goes, that's just something worthwhile to note into itself. Again, as far as that goes, if you got any questions, anything else, then feel free to let me know. And as far as things goes, I want to mention something real quick. The care, as far as the help support, they seem to be really on top of things. I don't know if it's because it's a new device and they're trying to sniff out bugs, be on top of it because Google has the money to do it, but given that the company is wealthy enough to do it, to pay the people to take the customer service type of thing, it's very important to have on time type of stuff, answering questions, finding bugs, and whatever. Especially for something like this, for something that they want to succeed, or a project manager wants them to succeed with, which increases my hope with it because they kill off a lot of projects like Google Glass and some of this other stuff, or they take a project that's failed and put in something else. But this, given between that, the overall support it's had, the overall care it's had, and just the stability, I've not had a single actual problem with the Wi-Fi unit besides the light thing, that's not a serious problem. That's just something, a nitpicking type of thing. Honestly, I really don't care. If it really bugs you as a person much, just put some like blue tape over it or something like that. Just make sure the adhesive won't be a problem. Put some transparent stuff over it, and that will change the color right there. It's a very easy thing to do. Or the IP scheme thing. Okay, yeah, that was a little bit annoying, but I just went to each camera, change them, and I even found a thing. I made a video, I think a couple days or a week ago, on how to fix this if you got IP cameras. So as long as the cameras are trying to connect, even though it's a wrong subnet and IP range, basically you can actually with certain software, he'll see the cameras and you can change it from there to have the right range and whatever, and that will fix that. Obviously, if it's completely different, then you have to go to each camera anyways. But I mean, those are minor things. The big thing I found I actually liked about this is the fact that it is easy to set up. It actually works with many devices, that it's actually switching the device. As I shown earlier, you can actually see which of your devices is connected to which access point. So I'm up here, I'm in my room area, and there's office up here and a few other things, and we're talking about pretty good distance apart. I really am bad at distance as far as just guessing distance, but I'll say 50 feet, give or take, maybe a little bit more. Probably more. And the thing is connected to the thing on the other side of the house. Yeah, it has to be more. It has to be a lot more, about maybe 100 feet, maybe more. But basically, it's connected to the thing on the other side of the house. And while I have one up here in the room I'm in, and it's doing this for device load. It's pushing the phone axis where it's not going to be lowered as much or at all, but it's pushing devices around as far as which access point it sees, or more so which one it uses. And what that does is it helps balance everything out. This is something I think is going to become more and more a problem when you got like thermostats, smoke detectors, TVs, fridges, microwaves, stoves, the whole 9 yards is Wi-Fi. Even the vacuum is Wi-Fi, and the doorbell, and that's all Wi-Fi based. You're going to have a device overload pretty quickly, and this is a great way to solve it. I was a bit worried about it when I first got it because I didn't know how it's going to work out, and it's very expensive. But I'm very happy to see that it handled it very well. Now, before I forget, there is something to note here is fundamentally it can actually slow down your overall speeds if you use it wrong. So again, and this is just going to be a last little bit. Basically, the access point is right here originally. Let's actually make this a lot bigger so it's not so pixelated. So basically, the access point is right here, right? The normal access point, the root, the base, the whatever you want to call it. And basically, you go out every so often, and so let's be 1, 2, 3. So 3 cannot see 1. 4 cannot see 2. 2 cannot see 4. Obviously, and 1 cannot see 4. So on. So basically, what happens is you can actually have it where the root, the 1 goes to 2, 2 goes and speaks to 3, and it goes out. And this would be sections of your house, or sections of a piece of property, or sections of something. So basically, as long as one device can see the next, then it can get internet. And it's self-healing and has all the other aspects if you got set up a little bit better than this. But here's where the problem comes in. So if from this access point, you half your speed, I'm not going to write out, I'm just going to say it, you half your speed, and you double the latency. So if it took 1 second to talk to, just keep math reasonable, or math easy, and using arbitrary numbers. Say if it took 1 second to normally talk to it, if you're connected directly to the root, now it takes 2 seconds. Plus, if it's like 100 megabytes, now it's 50 megabytes, and now it's 25 megabytes, and it's at 3 seconds, and so on and so on and so on. It's highly advised to not go past 4 points out, but the thing to keep in mind is, let's see if I can pull it up without revealing anything. So if you got something like this is not 4 points out. Basically, this point can see that point and that point. Well, all these points can see each other. This is considered as this one right here. This one right here. That's something to note. Basically, when you get to the point where, let's say that this is the root right here, the one that's connected to the modem. Once you get past where a given device cannot see that, that's the next one out, and so on and so on and so on. So that's very important to note. This would consider to be that like I say, for example, again, that's being the roots, that being 1. Both of those would be considered as 2. They would have direct line access to it. That's very important to note. That's very important to note, because you can have 5 billion of these devices. I wouldn't advise it, but you can have unlimited amount of these devices all around your house, taking up every square inch. As long as they all can see the roots of what's connected to the modem itself, that is the, given that you're not connected to the actual one connected to the modem itself, that is the first level. Obviously, you're going to have a jamming effect and all the other stuff, but it's very important to know that. Then the next level out is next level, and so on. That's very important to note. Is I wouldn't go 4 levels out. I would. I would keep it down to 3 levels at max if possible. So for example, like if your speed goes from 100 megabytes to 50 megabytes to 25 megabytes, you can see it dramatically drops. I'll keep it to 3 levels out, so this one right here, and that way it's not too slow, and as far as the speeds goes, and it's not too latency. It doesn't have a latency problem. So that's something to note and to itself. So if you do set this up wrong, you can have a bad day fairly quickly. And this is saying that each device is equally spread out. So that's pretty important. So let's say, for example, that this is the range of the first device. Then the second device is right here, not somewhere in the middle, but right on the edge. And the range of that device is, let's just say that. Well, any device connecting to this is experiencing whatever the outside is. It's repeating whatever the outside is. And then if you put one over here, it gets worse. So this, where it's the speed is half, the latency is doubled, this is given that is equally apart, equally in the middle. Optimally, it'll be somewhere between the edge and the middle. It's very important to note that. But you don't have choices, and one's going to be closer or further away. But basically, that is something to note when you're setting this stuff up. Now, you will have a tool on your phone through that application to help you set it up. It won't tell you, oh, it's too far or too close. It will say it's weak, good, or fair. Look for the middle ground as much as possible. That's the main thing. And here's another thing: is if the thing is too close, it will try to do an overlap thing. I actually had that problem where if the thing is too close, what would end up happening is if it's too close to the roots, or like if 2 and 3 is too close to each other, and the roots trying to do them, it will slow down. So when I was setting up the actual network itself, when putting it all on the table and plugging them in, it gave me this particular problem. This is called a jamming effect. I know I'm going a little bit too high technical for some, but basically what a jammer does, a military, police jammer, or any of these other type of jammers that you'll see, all they do is basically put out an equal type of signal in a lot of it. When you got too much signal, it's like you talking in the middle of a room to someone that's next to you. If the sound is so loud that the person can't hear you, well, that's kind of like a sound jammer. Well, the same thing with the radio signals. If something's too loud, it could jam it, which is more or less what a military type of jammers do. Or you have the too many devices. Maybe your neighbor, you, and so on has too many devices. Or you got a whole table full of these things sitting right next to each other, and you're just trying to set them up, and that's what's jamming it. But once you start setting them out wherever it may be, that's where things start cooperating right. So that's just something to note. That's something that is very important to note. Now, as far as the channels and stuff, it does a automatic channel switching. You don't need to know much about it. Just that jamming thing, it tries to alleviate that as much as possible, but there's only so much it can do, especially in certain areas. It's very important to note that. But anyways, as far as the rest of this video, I'm going to show the actual testing. The one thing to note is the top right button. On some of them, it will allow you to show details, allows you to show speed and stuff like that. So it goes from the basic good to show, oh, here's the actual detail, because the average person's probably not going to need to know, oh, it's at 50 megahertz or it's 100 megahertz or something like that. They probably won't know much of a difference. But if you're a little bit above average, then yeah, you probably actually need to know some of that, or it's just good to know in general. But anyways, as far as that goes, leave a like, subscribe, share, and again, the rest of this is going to show that test.